So, Mark Wayne runs ICE now, and you've written about the effort to turn citizenship into a spiritual loyalty test. What does that look like for ICE and for a DHS, Department of Homeland Security? They're the ones with the guns, right? What does that look like when DHS is now sprung out of places like the Patriot Academy, or Mark Wayne's I always literally City of Elders. It leaves my brain the second I say it. It's like I feel like I've been vaccinated against it or something. But what does that look like? Look, those organizations we've just laid out really want to do terrible things, and now they have somebody who's willing to impose that on us. What happens practically?
We've talked about this before, but for new people, it bears repeating. White Christian nationalists believe the only people who are full citizens are white Christian nationalist card-carrying men, white men. Those are the people who really have the full benefits of citizenship, and everyone else is secondary. It's a caste system or caste system. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. A class system. Mm-hmm. Of putting them, the white Christian nationalist men, at the top of the pyramid, and everybody else falls in line underneath that. And so, for example, if you're a Black person, you may adopt every bit of the white Christian nationalist batshittery that you want to, and live that and breathe that every day of your life, but you will never get to the top of the pyramid because you're not white. So it is a system of organizing society that they've come up. And it's not new. This is centuries old. I call it new feudalism sometimes because that's really what it is. They want white Christian men to rule us, and the rest of us will be serfs. And if the white Christian man gives you some privileges, then just be so grateful you have them. That's really. And they use their interpretation of the Bible to reframe the Constitution that way and say, you really don't have the right to free speech if you're criticizing me as a Christian nationalist. You really don't have the right to free expression if you're protesting this interpretation of the Bible vis-a-vis immigration that we are forcing on the country. You really don't have that privilege because it violates my interpretation of the Bible. So therefore, the Constitution really doesn't give you the right to protest. That's right. How they twist this around. And they can sit in meetings and say that they're following the Constitution because they really mean they're following their interpretation of it. But nobody ever pushes back on that.
Well, no, never. We do, but we're just podcasters, right? But I wonder about this, and I think we've talked about this a lot. It is called white Christian nationalism, but I'm wondering if to some degree and I want to be careful here, but if the Christianity is almost secondary, I think that's the wrong way to say it, but secondary to the racism, because it does feel like the Bible, their biblical context, their constitutional understanding and interpretation is really the end product is lifting up whiteness, even almost less so than Christian ideals, because their Christian ideals are about whiteness. Is race a sort of base layer of this whole movement?
When I first started talking about this, people would ask me very often on my Substack, how can these people call themselves Christians and be so racist? But yes, racism is the founding dogma of the Southern Baptist Convention. For instance, The whole reason the Southern Baptist Convention exists is because it split off from the North, because they wanted the right to own people and believed that was okay. So the racism and white supremacy is deeply embedded in this concept of white Christian nationalism. Many of these churches still teach the curse of Ham's son from the pulpit, which was a perversion of the story of Noah that taught that peoples of color were cursed by God. And that is how pastors in the lead up to the Civil War justified owning people. So, and people all across the South in churches, I mean, my pastor taught that from the pulpit as a child. So just because the Civil War happened doesn't mean that went away. So the white supremacy and racism is central to who they are. And they take issue with that because, again, they use the Bible to justify this racism. So there's nothing wrong with this racism. It's godly, it's biblical, it's holy. How dare you question it? How dare you make it something bad? You terrible, awful, heathen person. And so, and we saw that yesterday. Mark Wayne Mullen, and I don't know if somebody can find this clip where he's talking to Al Green, but Mark Wayne Mullen was pushing back against Al Green, essentially calling out his racism in that hearing. And you know, you can see just how furious he becomes at having that be called out, because he believes that is a fundamental part of the Bible. It is biblical, it is holy, it is part of kingdom citizenship, it is the only truth. And how dare you question it? So that's how they've managed to get all this racism to be mainstream again. You know, this is the way God planned it to be. This is the way God means for it to be. This is God's holy design. And you can't question that. And how dare you call me something bad for believing these things?
It does. All of this is just grasp at a justification for their shit ideas, right? Yes. And their fear and their anxiety about the world and their insecurities about their marriage. And I mean, I imagine, you know, we talk about marriage a lot on this show because you know, they use the Bible to justify really bad behavior in marriage as well. How afraid must you be of your wife, right? Or of being left, or of not being good enough, or of all of these things, to have to say, well, you know, it's not me who's beating you, it's God, right? It's not me who's forcing you to stay home. It's God. I mean, I want you in the community. I think that would be great, but God told me you have to stay home and cook me dinner and do everything that I want you to do for me. It's not me, it's God.
I think it's really important for more Americans and absolutely listeners here to process that. These men are some of the most weak, pathetic, insecure human beings alive. And every time they put their beardy faces in front of microphones and cameras, they are displaying just how weak and pathetic they are. All of them have beards. I don't know what that's about, but most of them do. And that's not an aspersion on yours.
I mean,
but
actually, this beard is because my wife, when we met, she said, grow a beard. And I did, and I've never shaved it. So this is actually an inversion of the white Christian nationalist paradigm.
But, you know, it's unfortunate that so many of these men sport that kind of look. It's like that lumberjack look. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So anyway, they have that mentality and they're just man babies. I mean, I wish we could just start calling them man babies everywhere. You know, they think they're projecting this strength and this, you know, you have to respect and fear me but they're pathetic. It's pathetic. They're man babies. And we should just all start calling them that.
Yeah, it is. It's totally weak. It's just weak. And I think when you debate them on the sort of merits of their particular argument, or the odds and ends of the Bible, or the this or the that, or you go back, you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
You just say, that's weak, man. That is the weakest thing I've ever heard. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
You're so pathetic. How pathetic are you? You're such a baby, man. I mean, that's what I would
baby
say.
Man. Maybe that'll be the title of our episode today. The baby man in charge. Mark Wayne, baby man.